If you're of a certain age, you may remember when home PCs weren't black, brushed aluminium, LED-ridden, silent monoliths sitting upon your desk, but instead greyish-beige plastic boxes with fans louder than a jet engine that you would be lucky to even boot up. Waiting with bated breath as that white underscore blinked upon the black screen, possibly having to sit through check disk on that blue background to make sure that your hard drive still worked, and breathing a sigh of relief when you finally heard that ambient cadence. Now that was what computing was all about in the mid to late 90s. As of January 2017, I'm 22 years old, so I'll fully admit that I was only 5 when the new millennium reared its ugly head, and that because of this, my PC gaming experience in the 90s amounted not to Doom or Quake or Half-Life, but mostly edutainment. Well, that and Spider-Man Cartoon Maker. I had a ton of fun with this stuff as a kid, but I couldn't tell you a single thing I learned from any of these titles. Except for Stay Tuned, of course. That game taught me that gratuitous and excessive violence is very, very fun. Stay Tuned is a point-and-click adventure come minigame compilation developed by Funnybone Interactive and released by Sierra in 1996 for Windows 3.1, Windows 95, and Mac, in which a bunch of cartoons escape your TV and wreak havoc around your apartment building, and you have to go find the remote to zap them back into TV land, as the game calls it. This is achieved by finding keys to unlock different rooms in the apartment building, occasional fetch quests, and playing all sorts of silly mini-games. Most of these only use the mouse, but a couple make some use of the keyboard. They usually seem to follow a pattern of the simpler the better, with Cartoon Combat and Toon Boy being the least playable of the bunch, and Schlepperdy the most, although the ones somewhere in between tend to be the most engaging and amusing, especially Da-Ding Dong and Make Way for the Highway. Much more entertaining than any of the minigames though is the humour. Madcap cartoon slapstick is spectacle enough, but the frequent and well-crafted references to 90s Americana and general Western pop culture that flew over my head as a child now cause more than a few chuckles. References to Seinfeld, the Beatles, and even a pornographic parody of the X-Files? Wow, way to fly under the radar, Funnybone. As for visuals, aside from the usual level of graininess on pre-rendered graphics that comes from programs of this era being limited to 256 colours, the flat-coloured pixel art really gives the impression of a Saturday morning cartoon, and every character design is simultaneously unique and a perfect stereotype of their respective tropes. It's tough to explain what I mean here, but you never see Fiddle, for example, as a Felix the Cat ripoff so much as, well, he's just Fiddle. Additionally, I have to commend the sound design. Generic yet pleasing cartoon music usually makes way for jazzy interludes that really draw you into the feeling that you're chasing these tunes down. There's a slight hiss on certain tracks, but again, Windows 95 game, you can't really avoid that. Every character is voice acted nicely with no misdelivered lines, and you often forget that sound design is even a part of this game, which is, well, how good sound design should work. Progression comes fast and hard, with only a few minor roadblocks around, since every key opens up a new room of the apartment. If you aren't enjoying yourself in one area, it's easy to just go to another instead, and it's very rare that you'll ever be forced to do anything in a certain area in order to progress any further. What rooms keys unlock is also randomized with every run through of the game, which adds replay value. After all, no two end up going exactly the same. But unfortunately, one of the biggest issues and a near-on deal breaker for some would be that Stay Tuned is extremely short. Once you know what to do, and believe me, that doesn't take long to figure out if you're just clicking randomly, the game lasts about 2 hours from start to finish, even letting all the cutscenes take their course. Not to mention, Stay Tuned has a few issues running stably on Windows 98, particularly that sometimes sounds won't play, and as certain events are set to trigger with a sound, you end up in a soft lock that requires you to close and restart the game. It's also unfortunate that Stay Tuned won't run at all on Windows XP or later, and with Apple's discontinuation of Classic on macOS, that eliminates any ways of playing Stay Tuned on modern PCs aside from a virtual machine or DOSBox Windows 3.1 installation. With that, my verdict is that Stay Tuned is the video game equivalent of a Saturday morning cartoon. It's mind-numbing fun, a worthwhile distraction, and a good way to kill a few hours, but don't expect anything mind-boggling. Just as if you're going to watch SpongeBob SquarePants, you shouldn't expect to be blown away like it's the Shawshank Redemption. The characterization, the writing, the music, and general atmosphere in Stay Tuned is a roller coaster ride, and while it isn't the best programmed piece of software out there, and not every minigame has lasting longevity, the game has such a breakneck pace that it's almost impossible to get bored. Well, I wouldn't say it's worth setting up a VM for. If you're interested in Windows 90X games, then this is a good addition to your collection for novelty alone.